Alright everyone, this is Stammer On and welcome back to another video on the channel that's all about stammering, stuttering and everything in between. So in August of this year, Joe Biden officially became the nominated candidate for the Democratic Party in the US. And at the event where this was all formalised, a speech was given by a 13-year-old boy called Brayden Harrington. In his speech, Braden talked about how Biden had inspired him because they were both part of the same club. That is, the club of people who stutter. He went on to say that the idea that somebody with a stutter could become vice president and even be in the running to be president led him to feel more confident in himself. At the end of his speech, he said, kids like me are counting on you to elect somebody that we can all look up to. Someone to show that people who stutter are capable and able to do whatever they want. And Braden did a fantastic job on his speech, and rightfully so got praised for it. At 13, there's no way that I could have gone on international television and given a 2-minute speech. But he did it, and he did a fantastic job. However, politics aside, I wanted to talk about a point in his speech that I think is really, really interesting. And that is representation. Braden wasn't aware that people who stutter could be in positions of power, in positions of authority, can be successful. And this speaks to a major issue with the representation of stuttering in the media. And this isn't just a problem that exists for people who stutter. With any human rights movement, whether it's women's rights, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's Pride or any other protected characteristic, we're seeing this issue come up time and time again. Representation. How are we being shown in the media, and what message is that putting across about us? I'm focusing specifically on stuttering. What you see time and time again is people who are weak, people who are nervous, people who aren't able to live up to their potential because of their stutter. Either that, or you see people who go on to become successful only once they've got rid of it. And it's overcoming the stammer, getting cured, and it's not a realistic representation, and it's not the lived experience of most people who stutter in the world. And unfortunately, that is what people are seeing and taking away as their experience of what stuttering is. Again, thinking back to when I was 13, there was really only one, perhaps two representations of stuttering that I was aware of. One is the ultimate pig with a stutter, that is Porky Pig, from the Looney Tunes, and the other one is Jimmy Valmer from South Park. And I think it says something that the only two representations of stuttering I can remember are both animated and both within programs that really play on stereotypes and play on zany characters. I can't think of a single human stutterer that I watched as a child. And here's the thing, I don't think of either of these characters as being bad representation of people who stutter. Porky Pig is fairly confident, he's fairly competent. In fact, in the Looney Tunes, he quite often plays the straight man role, as the foil for all of the zany characters around him. And his stutter is played for laughs occasionally, but no more than any other thing is within it. And in fact, it's often Porky himself that does the things which make me laugh. Stuff when he switches out words because he can't be bothered trying to say a certain word. That's something we do. So that is humour about a stammer based in the reality of a stammer.
Go home, folks.
There's one episode where Bugs isn't able to say a word and then Porky is able to say it immediately. And those little jokes, I think, work really, really well.
Now here is my masterpiece. It's a porcupine. Thanks.
And it's also worth noting that like a Porky Pig like was originally voiced by somebody with a stutter. Like Joe Doherty, the original voice of Porky Pig genuinely had a stutter. However, like later on, he was replaced by Mel Blanc because it was hard to script like the stutter, because you cannot script the stutter. So like the areas where they wanted Porky to stutter for comic effect, like Doherty wasn't able to do that because it was real. I'm not going to dwell too long on Porky Pig, because I'm actually going to link down below a podcast by Stuttering. A podcast by Stuttering is called where Daniela Rossi actually goes into this in a lot more detail, and you may even recognise a voice on there somewhere, because I might have had a little chat with him on this podcast about Porky Pig as a character. We spoke about the upcoming a Space Jam film, and whether Porky should have a stutter within that film, or whether we've reached the point where representing something like that has to be dealt with more sensitively. I think I would be more offended if he didn't stutter, because it's such a part of his character, and it's such a thing that all of us have grown up with, and if he suddenly loses that now, and then it's what? So you're it either means they have been making fun of it all this time and now they're not allowed to, or it means that they're saying he's no longer allowed to do that, and that's no longer
or
acceptable.
Stuttering is wrong
For him, yeah,
so
stuttering
he's
is wrong,
it or something.
I'll leave that in the description, so please go and check that out, because it's a really, really interesting podcast, and not just because I'm on it. I'm moving on to Jimmy Valmer from South Park. Moral ethics of me being able to watch South Park as a child aside, so I was the right age where it was this big thing and everyone had to watch it because it was this big controversial show. However, to this day, as I said before, I stand by the fact that this is a good representation of a person who stutters. Yes, it is made fun of within the show, but it's South Park. Everything is made fun of within the show. Jokes were made at his expense, and it was ridiculed, and it wasn't always accurate.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
But it's South Park. If anything, in a show where nothing is sacred, it would be weirder if they didn't make fun of it, and it would make me a bit of a hypocrite if I didn't allow them to do that. You can't laugh at everything else being slagged off and then get offended when your thing is the butt of the joke. Or you can, but it's not necessarily fair. However, jokes about stuttering aside, if you actually look at the character of Jimmy, he's phenomenal. He's fearless. He wants to be a stand-up. He goes about trying to be a stand-up, even though he's not the best stand-up.
Knock, knock. Who's there? An interrupting cow. An interrupting cow. Moo! What a terrific audience.
He gets up on stage regularly to sing, to perform, and he goes for it. And there's other areas of the show as well where he's shown to excel in certain areas. He clearly has a lot of friends. He's clearly popular. And that is not bad at all for a representation of stuttering. And I know there are some people that don't like the representation of Porky Pig and Jimmy, or other people who stutter in the media. If you've been compared to Porky Pig as a child, or made fun of, or had people mimic these characters to you, that's not on the characters. That is on those people who decided to use that character to mock you. And unfortunately, I think that people may have issues with these characters because these characters have been used to mock them in the past. And that is not right. Anybody who uses Porky Pig's catchphrase or a quote from South Park to make fun of somebody who stutters is not a good person, and no one deserves that. However, I don't believe that is the fault of the character, and I don't believe that is an issue with the character itself. As a teenager, I did think that I'd found a good representation of stammering, and that was on Glee. In the first season of Glee, there was a character called Tina Coin Chang, who had a stutter her, like, which featured in almost every sentence she said. However, when she sang, she had this strong, powerful voice, and she could blow people away. And like, so like she joined like the Glee Club as a bit of a loner, and then as she got to know the other Glee Club members, as she made friends, became more comfortable, became more confident in herself, like you saw her stutter begin to decrease. And for me, I thought this was great. Like, because like she was growing, she was happier, she felt more comfortable, she had friends that she trusted, and like the show even drew attention to it. They were like, you're stuttering less, and that was true, and that is realistic, that happens. But then they apparently got tired of writing the stutter, and like, kind of spoilers ahead, like, however, like, it's been over a decade, like, and if you've not seen the 9th episode of the first series, then how dedicated are you? And like, during this episode, like, this happened.
I've been faking it.
Faking what?
I don't have a stutter. I pretended to have one in 6th grade because I didn't want to give a speech on the Missouri Compromise. I was really shy, and it made people think I was weird, so they left me alone. And it wasn't until I joined Glee Club that I realized how much I was missing. I don't want to push people away anymore.
And so like, Artie, like, who's in a wheelchair, like, is drawing comparisons between him and Tina, like, because they both have this thing like which they're dealing with. And then Tina admits that actually she doesn't stutter. Like, in fact, like, she only started doing it like to get out of a speech when she was younger, and then it made people like, I think she was weird, like, so she would use it to push people away. And so then suddenly, like, a character that I've been taking inspiration and hope from, and what was suddenly saying, and that like my disability, the one that I was actually living with, like, would push people away, and that people would use it and fake it in order to make people not want to talk to them. Thanks. That's what I needed as a teenager, and it was just so frustrating. And like, I don't know what was behind the decision. I don't know, like, whether they'd always planned for it to be like this way, or whether they just didn't know how to write for it, because heaven forbid they get someone with a stutter in and speak to them. And apparently they couldn't develop her character beyond her having a stutter as well, because all I am is a stutter. However, suddenly something I had perceived to be really good teenage representation of stuttering was faked, and was not real, and was in fact attacking my disability as something that would push people away. And like, so growing up, I didn't have good stuttering representation, and this is something that I think is changing now. I think there's more stuff out there, and this is a topic I'd love to go more in depth on, and kind of go into like kind of some like film and television angles, and talk about that in a bit more depth. And like, there's a great project going on the Stammer website, which I will link below, which is looking at the representation of stuttering, like, specifically within films, and it's a really, really interesting project, so I will link it below. However, this topic will be back, because I'm not done with this topic. For now, I'm going to reiterate that like, stuttering representation matters, and that like, we need to do better. And this is like, especially important this month, like, because this month we've got International Stuttering Awareness Day. On the 22nd of October, I'm sure all social media will be flooded like, with this hashtag, and you'll see lots of people like speaking up about their stutters and sharing their stories. And I think this is so important. And like, so like, in October, I've set myself a challenge. I am going to be posting lots of videos this month, like, from like a past project I've done around International Stuttering Awareness Days. So like, back in 2017, I set myself a challenge to record a video every hour on the hour, like between 8 AM and 8 PM. and I recorded 13 videos on different aspects of stuttering. I will be sharing those. I will be sharing speeches I have given on past ISADs, and just like lots of content for you, just to raise awareness and to celebrate this month, because I think it is something we should be celebrating. So I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, I'm going to leave it there for now. If you liked it, then please leave me a like. If you're new and you'd like to follow along with everything I've got going on this month, then please hit the subscribe button. And also leave me a comment if there's anything you'd like me to cover over the next month, or if there's any representations of stuttering within film or television or plays, anything which you'd like me to talk about, or which you'd like me to watch or draw my attention to. Please, I always like to see new stuff, and I always like to learn. All of my socials as well are in the description, so please follow me on those. And I will see you soon. Bye.